Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not a truth. This money article is probably one of the best ones I have found yet, so I am very excited to go over this. Today on Money Article Monday, we are going to read an article called Transformative Power of Framing on Your Money and Life. I heard about this a while ago in regards to more of kind of life and not just money. When I found this article, it has such good information and can really change your perspective on a lot of things. On Money Article Mondays, we pick a news article or a blog that's interesting and somehow related to money. And we chat about that person's perspective and maybe some interesting facts that are in the article. As always, I will have the article linked down below. This article is from a financial living blog called Advanced Capital Management. I also found it on the Kiplinger website. But it's called Transformative Power of Framing on Your Money and Life and was written December 23rd, 2019. The happiness we feel about our money, work, relationships, life in general isn't derived by only what happens, but also how we perceive what happens. And if this isn't a good topic right now to discuss, I don't know what is. One of the most famous sayings of Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius goes like this: everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. What he seems to be articulating is a cognitive bias named more than 1,500 years ago, later, as the framing effect. So we are talking today about the framing effect. And this is where I talk about people's perspectives change. You could have a commercial and 3 people watch it and get a completely different idea of what the actual commercial was, but it was the exact same commercial they all watched. It's your perspective. The framing effect is the psychological principle that our decisions are influenced by how choices are positively or negatively presented. This is where I think you can actually waste or spend a lot of money because people present things in a way that they twist it into being favorable. Let me talk about that. Here it is. So you can see the concept of framing at work at your local grocery store. For example, beef advertised as 95% lean versus 5% fat. If it said it's 5% fat, it wouldn't look as positive, right? It would say if it's 95% lean, it looks more positive. Or more misleading, food products packaged as gluten-free, although they don't naturally contain gluten. Gluten-free candy, anyone? Just to make them appear healthier. While all of this may sound alarming, there is a major silver lining. We are not relegated to being only involuntary victims of framing. Instead, we also have the ability to use it as a tool to make better decisions and become happier people. I figured this out a long time ago when I remember hearing a lot of people say, I have to go put my child to bed. I have to put her down for a nap. I have to go do this. No, I get to put my child down for a nap. I get to do a nighttime routine with my child. I went through 5 years of infertility, 1 miscarriage. I fought for this child. I get to do it. There are many people who didn't get that opportunity or have lost their child. They don't get to do it anymore. So, have to? No, I'm going to say I get to. Within the article, they have a couple of different photos and charts to kind of show you how people look at this. And they talk about this one, about the S&P 500. One of the most enlightening investment charts out there is from the JP Morgan, showing the S&P 500's annual low points and ending year returns over the past 39 years. So, the average market decline has been 13.9% since 1980. Yet annual returns have been positive in all but 10 years, or 74% of the time. So which looks better? Does it look better to say the average decline was 13.9%? Or does it look better to say it's been positive in all but 10 years, or 74% of the time? Of course, the past is no guarantee of the future, but it shows there are two ways of looking at a stock market drop: as something to worry about, or as a typical decline in another typical year that will likely end up going back up. This is also what I talked about with in the market. When it does go down, a lot of people who are in a good financial position think that's a good thing, because what they actually end up doing is buying low, and then it goes right back up and they make a lot of money. I love this next example. There are a variety of ways to frame situations that are conducive to your financial goals. So when somebody gets on you about being frugal or not going out and not spending money, listen to this. We're not missing our friend's destination wedding. We're choosing to stay committed to our financial goals. Here's another one. There is a great sale, but it's still spending money I don't need to spend. I love this saying about when people go and maybe they get the deal after Thanksgiving of the big discount. They say, oh my gosh, I saved $250 on a $1,000 TV. You still spent $750. But there is much more. Framing can also help you find greater peace of mind and happiness every day. Research indicates that people became happier with age, greatly because they start to perceive the world in a more positive and impartial light. This is very much me. For me, when I stopped caring what other people thought, I stopped trying to keep up with the Joneses, I stopped worrying about just people's opinions. The happiness level went through the roof, because it was only what mattered then was me, my happiness, and that of my family. The journalist John Leland came to the conclusion that while spending a year interviewing and interacting with 6 New York City residents who were 85 or older, he documented his experience in the book Happiness is a Choice You Make. I might have to check that out. Leland writes, older people are more content, less anxious or fearful, less afraid of death, more likely to see the good side of things and accept the bad than young adults. A day spent at the doctor's office for a bad hip was still a gift of another day of being alive. A new complicated device meant spending quality time with the grandkids as they teach you how to use it. For older adults, problems were only problems if you thought about them that way. Otherwise, they were life, and yours for the living. I like to think of problems or bad situations as stepping stones, as learning. The biggest missteps, tragic events, just bad things at the time, bad things that I thought had happened to me in my life have been the biggest turning points, the biggest lessons learned from those. So even now, if something negative happens, I will, even around somebody else, I will say, well, wait a minute, what's the positive? Let's think about this. Really bad. Well, what could come of this? Something wonderful could come of it. So here is the challenge. The writer goes on to say, give it a try. Plan a day to actively reframe things around you. And whenever something bad happens, pause and ask yourself, how can you turn it into a positive? Then keep reminding yourself, you can work your mind like a muscle until you find yourself more receptive to what is and less upset over what you wish was. It's when you do that, when what you want most, a happy, fulfilling life happens. What I have found is 90% of the stuff people worry about never even happens. So you're sitting there anxiously spending time worrying about things that likely aren't even going to happen. The writer adds a few examples just to kind of reiterate how to do this. Here are some examples framing things differently. Company 401k match, a guaranteed 100% on your contribution. If they match 3%, that's guaranteed. A beat up used car parked next to a Ferrari. Thousands of dollars in income parked next to thousands of dollars in debt. A pair of $300 shoes, 10 hours of work, 30-hour wage. Kids' temper tantrum. Frustration of not yet having the words to express oneself. Someone who is always late. Someone who is respecting many people's time and too optimistic about how many meetings they can squeeze in. Difficult feedback at work. Informative to help you improve and surpass the people giving you difficult feedback. This is one of my favorite sayings. You don't always get to decide what happens in life, but you do always get to decide how you will react. If somebody's yelling and screaming at you, if somebody rear ends you, it's your choice how you react to that person. This is a time-old story from a 2005 Kenyon College commencement speech by writer David Foster Wallace about the value of education in making concerted choices to the world truthfully and not in a mindless, unfulfilling default mode. He starts with a story. There are two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" Many of us go through life asking the same question, he says. We make choices based on our set of perceptions without trying to see for what they truly are. I think about this as we get so wrapped up into listening to the news or celebrities or influencers even, and we forget to think that there might be another side to the story or there might be more detail. I always ask that before you make rash judgments, you wait to see the detail, see what actually happened, the facts that tell the truth. So the writer goes on talking about the speech. But reframing doesn't come naturally. So the speaker ends with a proclamation that it is a continuous process that will take an awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us, all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. Before I end the video, I want to go over a few sentence starters that I actually have listed on my phone as just gentle reminders to look at things in a positive way. And I had these written down before I found this article. So when I found the article, I knew that this was the time for me to talk about them. So it's one of those, instead of saying this, say this. Instead of saying I want, say I have. Instead of saying I wish, say, I create. Instead of saying I need, say, I'm grateful for. Instead of saying I hope, say, I choose. And instead of saying I have to, say, I get to. I really hope you enjoyed this Money Article Monday. I think that framing and the power of framing can change not only your financial life, but your emotional, spiritual. It can change so many things to make you hopefully live a happier, healthier life. And that is what I honestly wish for everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back for more videos.